I'm Jenny Townsend with the Stroke It podcast. This podcast is for individuals that are kicking off their career, newly married, or experiencing that midlife crisis. Stroking it can enhance every relationship in your life. You're going to learn about love languages and great stroking tactics and tips, and we're going to provide a lot of resources. So let's get to stroking it. Welcome to the Stroke It podcast. I'm Jenny Townsend. I'm excited to have Sandy here with me. Sandy and I met years ago.
A long time ago.
Long time ago. I was in the bridal industry. You were doing Stella and Da.
Yeah.
And through the years, I've been following you. And you're just a beautiful soul. Like,
Thank
I'm
you.
super excited to have you here today.
I received that.
Yes. And we ran into each other through the No Women
Yes.
in Tampa a few years ago in 19.
Yeah.
When my life was a shit show.
Got it. I feel that.
And, oh my gosh. Anyways, it was beautiful to see you. And I know when we hugged, there was such great energy there as well. And so much has happened the past few years, personal growth with me and with you as well. So welcome to the show. I'm excited for you to educate all of our listeners. So tell us a little bit about you, of like what you have to offer.
Well, wow, that's a big loaded question, isn't it?
I know it is.
You know, for me, when you met me, I was, leading about 30,000 women in this particular that organization and leading women in business, right? And I was really in a space of I was going through a divorce, leaving an abusive marriage. Did it with grace and style the best I could. I was in total in survival mode, though, I realized then. And it was 2 years of counseling, all the things that everyone tells you to do. Don't date in those 2 years, whatever it is. And then when I started dating again, I mean, I'm an overachiever, and I won't even call it that anymore. I'm a recovering overachiever at this point. But I was in counseling literally 3 times a week, and and then Bible studies and all the things I thought I was supposed to do, reading all the books. As soon as I started dating again, I ended up in another relationship so similar than the man that I left, my ex-husband. And it was so confusing because I was like, how did this happen? I did it all right. And my best friend, who and God bless her, the entire SakredShe program. I'm the CEO of SakredShe. SakredShe is an internationally run business where we actually are working with women to help them break this down, what I'm sharing with you. It's my healing journey. Now I can share it authentically, congruently with other women and men, by the way, because now I've called in a beautiful partner, and he worked with men, we work with couples and all around the world. So it's fascinating. But I'll back up. So basically, so everyone can understand the context, is that my best friend who passed away a few years ago during COVID, she was just this beautiful soul who would not let me get away with my own BS anymore. And Rach is like, you know what, enough. You have to pay attention to the patterns that are going on here. This is the same song, different record. And I was like, what? And so she encouraged me to go to a Tony Robbins event, and I had a 4-hour intervention with Tony. Like, literally, she goes, you're so stubborn, you're so masculine, you're so, like, basically have your strap on, essentially. And she goes, you need to be in front of someone who won't let you get away with your own bullshit. She goes, I can only do so much. And I went, all right. And I already had some history with Tony, and back when I was 19, and buying his infomercial, and helped me overcome an eating disorder and some other things as well. And eating disorders are always around control, and that came from a place of very overbearing parents after they weren't overbearing for many, many, many years. Like I would kind of could do whatever I wanted. They got back together suddenly. I got caught cutting school the first day of my senior year. And they're like, you're on restriction for a month. Right. So I'll back up. So it was like I've been this little bit of this rebellious streak, which, by the way, is the masculine in all of us. It's this testosterone wanting freedom, wanting to have it kind of our way. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if it's overused, it can be abusive to ourselves and the people around us. So anyway, I had that intervention with Tony, and I was in another partnership, as I mentioned, and we were together 4 hours with Tony, when basically he said, you're a very attractive woman, but you're basically a dude. And there's all these people, I'm standing up holding the mic like, what?
Right.
But I was mesmerized, because when he started sharing, he goes, but it's not your fault, honey. Sounds like, from the story that you're sharing, let you go so far in that, is that you've been in survival mode your whole life. So when you hear me say, Jenny, when a client comes to me or I speak to someone, like, honestly, some of this isn't even your fault. And when I had a friend tell me that years ago, when I moved away from more mindset coaching, and more into the embodiment and more the spiritual side of it as well. I mean, there's a trifecta. Obviously, there's mindset there, but there's only so much you can do up here. And it's like an IV. This brain is here to make you safe, not happy. And once I realized that, I'm like, well, what the heck does that mean? So what I've learned, and so I was so mesmerized by what happened during that event, broke up our relationship. We were in Fiji at the time at a pretty private event with Tony, and I went into a dark space. And then I picked my head up and God just really showed me the way. And I started studying under teachers for several years, healing my own things. So then I could actually congruently again help other people heal. Because I realized there's a lot of women like me. They
Hmm.
were successful. They did, but there was like an itch that needed to be scratched. They didn't understand that a lot of it had to do with what has been passed down generation to generation, or words spoken over them, or witnessing their family. And so I'm a woman who was raised to take responsibility. So when I had, some of my teachers share, Sandy, some of this isn't your fault. I went, of course it is. I have agency over my body. Do you know who I am? That's arrogant. Like, but no, honey, listen. And so I had to learn how to surrender. And I know when you and I spoke after that, it was
Hmm.
like, no, do
Yes.
you know, everyone's like, do you know what I've gone through? Do you know this? And it's like, baby girl, I get it, because the hardest thing to do is to let go. I mean, again, our brain wants to keep us in homeostasis, and homeostasis is basically that 7-year-old little girl that lives in us. And so as I work with, we have our new website is going to be launched at the beginning of the year, but we're still not going to we're not going to put all the modalities that I use in my toolbox because they're so unique and bizarre. Like I mentioned to you
Yeah,
earlier.
everyone has their own story, their own
Totally.
journey.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said until we get it in our body and we start walking and talking and breathing, like a woman who deserves to have the X, the Y, the Z, then we're just basically on autopilot and we immediately will go back to the old ways.
You're
Yep.
totally speaking all my language.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this. And I your Facebook that you just posted the other day about the child and the growing up and
Mhm.
how that, creates who you are today and, that past makes a difference. So I want to talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
more because I feel like
Sure.
when you mentioned the past, the child and the parents, the upbringing, and then how it impacts us today, that masculine. I'm very similar. Like when you're talking about Tony Robbins, I've been to Tony
Yeah.
Robbins before.
And by the way, I want to say this about Tony too. I love Tony. I'm grateful, but I'm no longer drawn to that raw, raw, raw
Mhm.
energy. I am very much now drawn to, something more gentler because there I think you'd be fiercely mighty, but it's a great catalyst, and most masculine women will be drawn to that
Right, right.
and come back. So I just want to state this was interesting in the way that we were here because I'm
Mhm.
not drawn to him anymore.
Okay.
What I crave now is so different because my nervous system has been healed.
Right,
I know
right.
how to regulate my nervous system. And when we start shifting, especially if our core is more feminine, right?
Mhm.
So I know you're gonna like elaborate on that
Yeah, well,
piece.
and I was just talking about masculine feminine with my husband this morning. So let's talk about like the upbringing as
Yeah,
well. And what are some examples that, I can give examples of what I've been through that others maybe went through that maybe developed that strong masculine.
sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, first I'll just share it with your audience in case they don't know. Is that we have the masculine and feminine in all of us. We all do. And just because, we're women doesn't mean that we lead with our feminine energy. The feminine in all of us, including, men, is that softer, more intuitive space. It's the space that brings in the vibrancy, the creativity, the liveliness. The feminine is energy.
mhm.
And so, and the masculine is going to be more the structure. I'll make it very simple. You're watching a river flow. The river bed is the masculine. It's the container. It's the time and space. It's the protector, the provider. The flowing river, which is ever changing, it hits a rock,
Mhm.
that is the feminine. Most women, that have either been raised in a space where their parents wanted her to be a boy, or they had to start working at 12, like I did, to pay the bills with
Or
my mother.
younger.
Yep, or younger. And and also the key in this work and what I teach is to actually be able to see the wound. The first thing that happened Like for me, it was when my dad left at 12, and I literally saw my childhood drive away with his taillights leaving the driveway. And I could go into the world's smallest violin story, but the truth is that I'm grateful that he did leave. I can see it now because I have a work ethic like an ox. What I didn't have is I didn't know how to actually modulate that and bring in the masculine when I needed to and lead actually with my feminine space. And that's why I was chewing up men and spitting them out without even realizing it. I was emasculating my own son without even realizing it. Because kids, by the way, are feminine up until the point they hit puberty. All children. It's not gender specific. And so that's why the work that John, my husband, and I teach is it will work with same sex couples as well. When and there's something called polarity, and can I give them the
Yeah,
quiz? Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, so there's a quiz, and I know you're gonna put it in the show notes, but it's sandysembler.com/quiz, and it will actually allow you to go in and do a little test and see, like, what's your leading energy. The neat thing is that it can be shifted, and that's where the embodiment piece comes in for me. Going back to the little child, I like to call her, instead of inner child work, which is what it is, it's the little girl in us. Right? It's the little boy in us. And generally, we're running in our subconscious mind all the time. And so the work, taking it from the headspace, putting it in the body, because repetition is the mother of skill. And the more that we can do something over and over and over again, eventually it becomes our subconscious. And so that's why I'll give women practices of if they have a difficult time accessing joy, if joy or even being hugged or not being nurtured, or what do you mean you're sitting down, or why do you have pink in your room, or whatever it is. I get to know someone, and then we will bring in whatever it was, and then we have them reenact it over and over again. The brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not, so we can actually trick the brain into believing that we had a great childhood even when it was terrible.
I think that could be really beneficial for a lot of people. I know so
Yeah.
many people that are living in the past, and
Yes.
then they're resenting their past or resenting their parents.
Yes.
They can't have great relationships with their parents because of their past, or they're kind of making those same mistakes with their own children
It happens
right
all the
now,
time.
which is really, really, really
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Well, but I believe in generational curses, and I believe in generational patterns. And, one of the modalities I use, we actually clear things on a core level, like anything spoken to you or over you since the moment you were conceived. And then, of course, the generational curses, like the Bible talks about that, right? Like 7 generations. And no matter what someone's faith is, we can't deny that when you start looking at patterns, generations, like, oh, there it is again. There it is again. It could be, a man who is more passive. It could be a woman who's more driven. It could be alcoholism. It could be obesity. But I personally believe, and my teachers have taught me that epigenetics, I mean, we can change anything. And just because we got it from our mama doesn't mean we have to keep it from our mama. Right.
Right,
And
right.
that's powerful. Yeah. Because if you would have told me abuse is love, that my mindset was abuse is love, I would have told you were nuts. Who would say abuse is love? But when I went through this process and cleared all this energy, and learned how to do it to be able to gift it to others, abuse was love to me subconsciously. And as I started doing more research in my family, it was passed down like 7 generations,
Right,
but it stops with me.
right. So do you feel that's why you were in your marriage for so long when you were saying it was like abusive
Yeah, I mean, some of
because
it.
you were thinking that was love?
Well, it felt normal.
Right.
It felt, and even though yeah, I mean, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, whatever it wasn't like my daddy wasn't an abusive man. He was a man actually that, and I love you, daddy. He's not with us anymore, but he he was not able to step in the way that, we needed him to, my brother and I, and my mother, I guess, at that time as well. And of course, I know my mom, she did the best she could, but there's dynamics. We're 100% responsible for how we show up in our relationship. It's never 50-50. Our marriages, our families.
Right.
And when someone says to me, a man or a woman, we don't want to go there with our family, we literally can change, because I believe in the energetic field. We can
Right.
change with our thought forms and repetition how someone even perceives us by the way we perceive them.
Right.
And our brain is conditioned to look for what's wrong over and
Over
over
and
and
over. Right,
over and
right,
over again until you
right,
change it. It's
right,
like ants marching in a line.
right.
So as I would get to know you better, I would share, Jenny, you tell me what your schism is, the chronic complaint. I would break it down to the feelings. And then, we bring in the masculine, feminine energies because we don't want you to lose your drive.
Yeah.
We don't want you to lose, the fact that the bills can be paid on time, or we need our kids to, do their homework or what have you. But what we want is for women, especially, and we need this in the world. We need our hearts to lead us. We need more men to lead with their hearts, but also have the masculine space. And something else is, and I'll bring this up because it came up yesterday with I was in a coaching call, and my client was telling me how she's noticed that when women want to break a contract, for example, it's the masculine that feels that there's a problem. Actually, the feminine feels there's a problem. The masculine will look, how can we fix this, right?
Right.
But then what happens when a woman, this is why there aren't more women in leadership. This is very controversial, but I'm going to say it.
It's okay. Go for it.
I know you love that. I love the women's liberation movement. I wouldn't change a thing. I think it's also really screwed us over as women because men don't know how to step in and be men. It is not, all you have to do is go watch Mean Girls 1 and Mean Girls 2. Mean Girls 2, the girl is like, "Don't open my door for me." I mean, it's just, yeah, my son, he's 23 now. He's like, I don't even know, especially that age, like, do they want the door open? Do they want this? It's so confusing. And, over time, what's happening is the feminine brain is actually being more masculinized, and also vice versa. So how do we fix that? We don't go back to way back there. Women's need their rights and all that. Don't you even get me started with that, right? I get goosebumps when I think about it. However, if we can actually learn to honor the masculine in all of us, we can learn to honor, when we met through like the No Tribe again as
Yeah.
well, and with the No Women, and it's a lot of masculine, beautiful women, successful women, a lot of masculine energy. I mean, they're a great, my ideal client there in some
Right.
ways, right?
Right.
Because we can learn to actually, and I'll go back to the part about when a woman wants to break a contract, is very fascinating. There's a toxic version of the feminine and the masculine, and obviously there's a sacred. And so when we hear women or anybody gossiping, that's the toxic feminine. And the reason why women gossip is because it's primal. They want to create doubt. So it's a pecking order. So they can they can be safe. And so it's so interesting too. So as we have shifted things, and since I first started learning this work 10 years ago, it's actually changed even so because it's not just about men and women. I don't even talk about gender so much in that space. However, it really is, about because the masculine is our noble character. The masculine is the one that would never allow us to have the affair. The masculine in us would no, I gave my word, not going to do that. But it's the feminine that's wanting the attention and wanting the feels in all of us, which is why if men generally have an affair, it's because they're not feeling nurtured or loved or worshipped or revered or respected at home. For women, who's primarily more feminine, I'll say, it's because we don't feel held, we don't feel claimed, we don't feel that we're being led. And so, I love to teach women that we can literally let our partners, we can learn how to allow them to lead us badly. And that's a whole nother topic, right? But
Yeah.
I want to say this too, because I think you'll find it interesting. And then about so when a woman wants to cancel a contract, and have you ever had a situation where a woman wants to cancel a contract and then they get mad? And then all of a sudden they start threatening you, or I will, I'll let everyone know, I'll put a bad review or whatever
Right.
it is.
Yeah.
And then yet they wonder why there aren't more women in charge. Because what happens is the feelings get hurt and then the claws come out.
Mhm.
And so what we have to do is heal both the masculine and feminine energies so we can show up as very strong, capable women who honor our word,
Right.
right? But lead with our heart. And so because men, the masculine in us is very logical. You signed a contract, you do this, it's up to you to step in. And that's with anything. Anything. Yeah, is that right?
What you just said is exactly what the conversations my husband and I had this morning. Where I was
Mm,
talking about you and the guest, and I feel like how much I've grown from listening to you, and I've
yeah.
become more feminine. I was
Thank you.
very, very masculine.
Yeah,
You know,
I feel you.
I was like
When you hug me,
bulldog. Yeah.
well, listen, I was gonna say this because kudos to you. When you hugged me outside as you were bringing
Mhm.
me in, it's been 3 years since I've really physically touched you.
Yeah.
And even the way when you hugged me on the boat that night, I remember it was a feeling of, I I'll be honest, 'cause I love to read bodies. I could
Right.
feel you, like, it was a feeling of, like, "She gets me." Like,
Mhm.
I got you."
Yes.
And at the end of the day, there's nothing sexier than when a woman hears from her partner, "I've got you, babe. I've
Right.
got you."
Right.
And then
Right.
and then it's up to us to learn how to be able to believe it, right?
Mhm.
Fascinating, but, and then when you hugged me outside a few minutes ago, I was like, "Wow." I
Much lighter.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you've been doing the work, and I
Yeah,
commend you for
a
that.
lot of work, a lot of work.
Yeah,
Well, my husband had said, talking about the leadership part, we had a lot of conversations this morning
yeah,
with you coming on today, and he had said, I said about me being more masculine. He's saying, I don't think you're masculine. I was like, but I am. Like I'm independent, and I just,
yeah,
I'm very bossy, and I'm very stand up, and
yeah,
I can just do all these things. And I said, when I talk to a lot of my girlfriends, we're talking about their husband. I tend to agree with the husbands a lot. And
yeah,
they're like, "Oh, you're just like my husband. You're the man in the relationship."
yeah,
So I've been told I was the man. I've been
yes,
acting like a man. And this conversation shifted then. And he says to me, he goes, "Well, that's because you're not emotional. You're not as emotional as most women," which is going back to the whole leadership thing as well.
yeah,
And so I have become more emotional the past, few
yeah,
years, getting in touch with that feminine side because I was very, very masculine.
yeah,
But going back to, like, what you were saying about the childhood and that
yeah,
the coldness, like, I was really, really cold because that's the upbringing I was brought
right,
into. My parents worked us really hard. It was really tough love. There was no nurturing.
yeah,
There was no, we didn't lay in bed and snuggle. There was a
right,
lot of those things, and there was a lot of expectations on worth and not laying around and stuff like that, which growing up like that caused a lot of problems in my marriage
of
because
course,
I
yeah,
was so cold and, like,
right,
I didn't know I needed to snuggle with my husband. I didn't need to be snuggled with. I didn't
yeah,
need to be touched in a certain way. I didn't need to hold hands and be on the couch for hours. So it's
yes,
really interesting. Like the work that you're talking about
yes,
is speaking to me in so many different ways. Number one, because I've learned so much in the past few
yeah,
years about love languages, about the quality of love and what it means to
mm,
your partner, and stepping down a little bit from that masculine side and to be more into the feminine
yeah,
side. And it has been beautiful
yeah.
because I can still be independent and be
It's
strong.
it's interesting though, and we could tease this apart another time, on our own time, but when you said, I mean, that he that you can have those masculine qualities, right?
Mhm.
But he's talking about the emotionality, and so if you and I were in a container, well, again, where we're working together, and what
Right.
I would share ways that you actually can tap into that even more. I mean, even when we're sitting here, like, how can you actually like, literally right now, like, how can you soften your body even a little bit more?
Pretty Well, lay back a little
Yeah,
bit.
I mean, or
Like,
even just take your
let go of my
yeah, or
hips.
take your have your fingertips, like, literally
Yeah.
just gently rub your thighs, and
Right.
that wakes up the nervous system to pleasure. There and, anybody in my communities, they know, like, if our hair's up, somebody's hair is up and they come on a call, I may ask them to slowly, ever so slowly, make it so delicious as they take down their hair tie. It's not about looking feminine. So many people out there on the IG land, they think the feminine is like this goddess and this. I mean, that's great. And I'm telling you, the reason why I teach the way I teach, because I would go to these things and I would do the goddessy things. I'd go to Sedona and I'd dance around and all that. Great. Love that. But I get home and I'm like, okay, then what do I do? Okay,
Right.
what do I do? So I like to be practical in the teaching, and we have to be radical in it as well. So, when your husband's saying you're less emotional, John and I believe that the best spiritual practice is to be in a monogamous relationship where you know that you know that you know that you'll trigger each other. However, the key is that, you repair that last 5% of your healing. It's easy to be single out there doing the work. Trust me, as soon as you get in it,
Yeah.
there's the playground, there's the petri dish. But the key to the healthy piece is that you know you're going to trigger each other because you're going to do it in a bad relationship or a healthy one. It's how you repair it. And so I can tell you, since John and I've been together, because I have called in a beautiful partner, um, and he's like this perfect match for me because he invokes my childhood wounds and vice versa. The key is though is that we come together, and how can we tease it apart and learn because he's everything that I didn't have just like growing up, and our my nervous system did not know how to receive it. And that's the reason why a lot of them will work with me for several years, especially if they've a lot. I mean, John and I, since COVID, there's been 200 relationships that have been come back online. 7 of those relationships, people were divorced. and now they've gotten remarried. So the work that we do works. So whether we're working with somebody as a couple or individually, it only takes one to get started. So it's just fascinating too, because that's why a lot of people who've been in counseling for years will come to us, because just talking about it will not help. You have got to learn how to actually be able to embody it first. And so the reason why, I mean, the goddess retreats, those are really fun and juicy, but I want to give practical tips. Like, for example, like how can you soften the body right now? Right.
Right. Yeah. So give
Yeah.
us a couple more as
Yeah.
far as tuning into the masculine and tuning into the feminine.
Yeah.
And then I would like to know about how to receive those, or how to be aware that maybe your partner is trying these things as well, or how, if that's even a thing. But
What do you mean? What do you mean if your partner trying thing?
so when I know when I was trying to, for instance, like like as I said, I grew up in a very cold
Hmm.
environment. My husband grew up in a very warm environment, so I didn't know that I needed to,
Hmm.
stroke
But you
and
both.
stuff,
But
all
the
that.
thing is, though, this is what I want to share with you. You both. If I was talking to him,
Yeah.
we have we use hypnosis as well. It was a hypnosis we do to get down the nitty gritty.
Hmm.
He was attracted to your sternness, your go getterness,
Right.
your get things doneness, and and that could be the very thing, ironically, that could tear the two of you apart,
It
right?
did.
And, right, and that's like, and it's like, what, I don't
Yeah.
understand, you know.
Right.
But then the other piece is that there's a reason why he subconsciously was the man for you. The neat thing is that that last 5% I just mentioned will be healed with doing this work. And
Right.
it's a matter of, it's not just a matter of getting out a story. It's actually like to Google map it, I like to say, and go where, oh, and observe yourself, observing yourself. It's very, very deep, deep work. And then to go, okay, oh, there it is. There's the wad of hair. Let's tease that apart, because the two of you were an energetic match when you met.
Right.
Right.
For
And
sure.
yeah, and you still are. The cool thing is that as you have talked about these things and you're bringing it to the light, then you learn new skills. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, give us some tips as far as like tuning into the feminine
Yeah.
that women like myself, like you,
Mhm.
could use
Well, I
or
mean,
could do
yeah,
actually.
yeah, it's really, and that's, it's actually not do, because that's
Okay.
it's very much about being.
Being.
Like
Okay.
even in this space right now, I mean, just the beingness of the way we are holding our body. And I'll give you just a tip. I mean, let's just say
Yeah.
you and I are on a date,
Okay.
and you're the more be the more masculine partner.
Okay.
Like just like me, like oak wood straight. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then if I show up and I'm late, and I put on some lipstick, and I come in the restaurant and I meet you and I sit down and I'm still in go get it done mode, and I'm like this meeting you.
Yeah.
It's like there's no juice there, there's no energy there.
No,
So
there's
the
not.
the feminine, remember, is movement, and it's not about putting an umbrella in a drink, in a fruity drink, and that's feminine. So if you're in the masculine and we're on a date, I would, the key is that to actually just to get it more in your body.
Okay.
There needs to be transition time from the masculine world, whether you're a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids, because what people don't understand
Yeah.
is mothering is actually quite masculine. I mean,
Was
get your
your
homework
energy.
done, da 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 da.
Yeah.
But it's the part of the other side of it, the nurturing part, that especially for single moms, this is so hard.
Mhm.
Where's the time? I'm doing all the other things.
Right.
So then the key is that in this moment of practicality would be like even how I may linger on my cup. And it's not to get his attention. So many people think I need to be more feminine
Mhm.
to sexualize it. No, it's just a matter of enjoyment. What do you enjoy? Even the way you could adjust your microphone, even the way we could literally end a text could be can you make it the most delicious text? When you come out of
Mm.
meditation, can you open your eyes so slowly, imagining that God just either painted the most perfect sunset or sunrise just for you? And when you open your eyes so slowly, the most delicious eye opening, can you feel what it would feel like if God really did that for us, which He does every day?
Yeah.
And then how would you show devotion? One of the emotions I don't think is taught enough in the feminine work is devotion. I mean, literally be devoted to a practice, not in a masculine way to get it done, but more of surrendering into what it would feel like, even for someone who comes to me to repair a relationship with themselves, with their body, for example. I
Mhm.
mean, well, when I work with teenagers, right, girls who are comparing themselves to everybody in the
Right.
Instagram filters, can you imagine yourself already there, right? And so the practical tips would be literally just slowing down. An embodiment
That's a
practice,
huge one.
yeah, an embodiment practice is when a woman starts working with me, she's talking really fast, It's like Eliza Doolittle and My Fair Lady. I may actually literally have her read to me, like, read to me and record it, and read and take a breath between every word, and it is exhausting to a woman who's so used to, like, right?
Yes.
But we have to but that actually creates literally scientifically, and if you would have told me when I was in school that I'd be talking about science and physics and all of this, I would have told you we're nuts, right? But it creates different neural pathways, when we start repeating these practices over and over and over again. So it's like, what brings you more pleasure? And I don't mean necessarily hedonistic pleasure. I mean, there's a time
Mhm.
and a place for that. But
Right.
what brings you more joy? And the reason why, because I believe there's 10 women that live in all of us, and when you start working with me, you learn the archetypes, the way I teach them, and you name them and you teach them to your partner. So my working persona is Sloan, and my husband knows that. And if we're getting ready, like it happened last night, we're going out on a date, and I started asking all these questions now because we work together now. He's like, Sloan, I need Celeste to come on this date with me. And Celeste has a whole nother persona. I mean, listen, if we're going to be with someone for the rest of our lives, why does it need to be boring? And if you're going to work with me or live with me or be my friend or what have you, it's going to be fun.
Right.
So the reason why I tap in back to what we originally talked about, the little girl, is that most women that come to me have lost contact with her. And so to be able to have a relationship with her and apologize to her for leaving her behind is magnetic. And so I may give a woman a skipping practice in public because something happens in the quantum field whenever we actually observe and witness something. We become aware of it. Then we acknowledge it when two people come together. That's why I use a
Right.
lot of video. And, I work with women around the world. So it doesn't matter what language they speak, this is universal. And then there's acceptance, and that is not resignation. I would never say it's great if someone has an affair or what have you, but every time we're triggered or something like that happens, I'm going to ask you to tap into your feminine, which is all about curiosity. Wow, I'm triggered. What the heck does that mean? Okay, I can go deeper. That means there's going to be healing there. And so, that's why the breath work is so great. And that's why, movement and nonlinear movement is so wonderful. And I teach lots of different modalities with that within my space. But a woman just moving 10 minutes in the morning, I don't mean exercise.
Yeah.
Getting on the floor in a sheepskin and allowing yourself just to move to music. If you're angry, anger can be gorgeous. Jealousy can be gorgeous. I mean, I'm known for making art out of our emotions. You can make art out of jealousy. You can make art out of, your husband doesn't put the garbage outside, or he doesn't load the dishwasher, kids don't. There's a way to make art with that. And so life becomes so much juicier. Oops, juicier. Um, because everything is an opportunity for practice. We practice yoga, we practice the piano, we
Right.
practice basketball. I teach people how to practice being in relationship with themselves and make art out of everything that they're doing.
That's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
I love the movement thing. I love everything you're
Yes.
saying. I want to go back to the transition
Mhm.
because I think that's really important of
Yeah.
like coaching on the transition of
Yes.
like switching from boss babe, from
Yeah.
mom, coach, from all that
Yeah.
to going into that feminine side. Like
Yeah.
that can be really, really hard to do,
Mm.
especially like I know when I walk in the door, it's like I still got my mind
Mhm.
on work and I
Yep.
like it's really hard to transition into
How
the
long is your
wife and
how
the
long is your commute from work to home?
15, 20 minutes.
Perfect time. It starts from the minute you make the decision, of course, right? And so again, what you need to get addicted to, get more addicted to the feeling you're gonna feel by actually being received at home, with such juiciness, your own personal agency home,
Mhm.
but home. And so it will start with, what's something that brings you pleasure? Maybe you have a sheepskin literally that you're sitting on the way home. I have all kind of props, what have you. I've got those little acupuncture pillows,
Oh, okay.
and I will sit on that. It's like, whoa. And it just will wake me up. It's maybe, on that drive home listening to music. It could be our partner draws us a bubble bath. It
Mhm.
could be, that we change out of our clothes because that could be a mental. We're training our dogs with an invisible fence right now, and we have this really long dock. And so I don't really love those things, but I don't want my dogs to fall in. I love when they go on the dock with us. So what they've trained us to do is you take the collar off, there's a hook right before the dock. They now know when we take that off, they can go out there, but they've been conditioned now with enough repetition, they won't go out there with their collars on. So the same thing with us. You just have it could be you put on your favorite sunglasses or something in repetition.
Okay.
And then that will literally, with enough repetition, allow your body to go, okay, now it's time for her to become whatever persona
Whatever
you
she
want. Yeah,
wants to do.
yes.
Are you noticing in your practice as well that there's a lot of feminine that are trying to become more masculine, or is it
No.
mainly masculine going in touch
Oh
with
yeah.
the feminine?
Most women who are more masculine are actually quite miserable, but they won't admit it until they have enough pain, till they
Okay.
have enough loss.
Okay.
And it happens over and over again. So it doesn't, I mean, I just smile. And again, that's why women work with me for a while. I have a group of my sirens, my advanced practice women. I'm going to see them tonight. And it's they all were so masculine when they came to work with me from all different walks of life. And now the way that we even will enjoy a concert will be very different. I mean, even our text thread is so funny. We're like, which archetype we're going to dress up as tonight? Like, and it's not like we're going to, it's like Halloween. It's more of, it could even be, I could wear the same exact outfit I have on now, which girls, by the way, if you're watching, I might just wear this because they're asking, what am I wearing? But it's who I choose to be in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that, to be in the moment too, because there's so many times we're focusing on goals and the
Yes.
future and where we're going and what we're
Yes.
doing, and it's just, someone had said this the other day. They're just like, be in the
Mm.
moment.
It's so much easier said than done. When I've been into India a few times and you hear the loving what is and loving the what is, and it's so much easier said than done. So we have to literally bring our body, our mind back to the body. Cause I really believe that we can walk our mind. We don't need to let this thing be leading us. It's like, let the tail wag the dog for a while, but you have to train it to do that.
You
So
do.
you can train yourself to actually go back to pleasure, to go back to joy. But it's simple, but it's not easy. And that's why a lot of women who will start working with me will be excited, and then their brain's gonna go, "No, you are not going to change." And then, it's easier to go, "Okay, I won't change. I'm gonna," 'cause we can get addicted to misery. We can also
Yeah.
get addicted to pain. But we also can train ourselves to be addicted to joy.
Right.
And that's why, it's we can find joy just like that. You
Yeah.
can find joy in me looking over and seeing, I love the three colors you have right there. She has these little bottles, and they have really bright colored tops, and my eyes are drawn to that, right?
Should-
Yeah, no, it's fine, but it's I'm like, "Oh, wow," and I wanna, like, touch it, and so it does feel somewhat childlike. And my brother was here for Thanksgiving, and we haven't spent a holiday together in 20 years. He remembers me from way back, and he's, like, watching me, and Jeff, his name is Jeff, and, "What are you looking at?" He goes, "I just remember you being so stern and just strong, all the things you were just describing." He
Yes.
goes, "This is just, like, emotional." And I remember my son's dad would tell me, "Gosh, you just didn't show any emotion back then. I was so stoic, and I didn't even know it." And
Yes.
I always use this, and, it's if you were penetrated right now, a
Mhm.
woman penetrated, what would your partner feel? Would your partner feel prickles or coldness or isolation, dryness, or would he feel or she feel that you're open to love? Are you an invitation for love? And I can look around a room and go, she could use some work with me. They work with me. It's nothing. There's anything wrong. We just have to train ourselves to actually be able to be receptive. And the feminine is all about receivership. Notice the next time you give someone a compliment, and that
Oh, I
yeah,
give people compliments all the time. They don't ever receive them.
yeah,
And it's always like they have to talk about something negative if they turn
yeah.
that
Oh, I got
compliment.
this for $5. This silly thing, and
Yeah.
the simple practice is I receive that.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging.
Yeah, but that's the more masculine response.
Yeah. Exactly.
I receive this as a more feminine response. Like I receive and really receive as if they're literally you're gonna ingest their compliment and you're gonna like, I receive that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the masculine wants to be acknowledged. The feminine wants to be seen,
Seen
heard, understood,
and
and feel
felt.
safe.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing all those great things. If anybody's interested in working with
yeah,
you, can you give us your website or tell us anything that you have
sure.
coming up in the new year where we
Yes,
can get in contact with
yeah,
you? I'll include it all in the show notes as
yes,
well, but just in case of the
yes,
listeners.
yes, yes. So There's all different ways to work. I have different containers. I have what my signature program is, a sisterhood, and it's a 6-month program. I have one-on-one mentorships, all of those by application only. I do have an embodied feminine woman course, which would I love to give a discount code
Okay.
for your audience. I just thought about that. So I'll let and that's more of a self-study course,
Okay.
but it's magnificent, and it goes through belief systems and boundaries and embodiment. The others do as well, but it's deeper because I'm there coaching too. And we do have live events and such all over. But you can find me on Instagram, Sandy Sembler, or sandysembler.com. And also the quiz is really a great place to start.
Yeah, I definitely think that we should do. I think I might have done the quiz.
I know you did. Yeah, you
Like
did.
forever ago.
Yeah, it
I
was a
think
long
I
time ago.
did the
I'd love you to
quiz.
do it again, though.
I should do it again.
Yeah.
I bet you there's some changes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, we really work with shadows and attachment styles, because you can heal attachment styles too, but it does take dedication. And so I love what I do, and I love seeing transformation. I love seeing the surrender, and I love seeing women get so comfortable with their relationship with women. Most women who come work with me, I will say, most women, they actually have sister wounds and mother wounds. Women that generally are more driven have a lot more mother wounds than you would imagine.
I believe that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So healing those really matters. So we do all that in the work that we do.
I
Yeah.
love it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing.
Yes.
I really
Thank you for
appreciate it. We'll
yes.
include all that in our show
Yeah, thank you
notes.
for having me
You're
here.
welcome.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, stay tuned for the next episode, and thanks for joining the Stroke It podcast.
Yeah. See you later. Bye.
Thanks for stroking it with me this morning. Make sure to check out my Tuesdays, which are the quickies. They're less than 20 minutes and offer great, valuable information. For additional tips and tools and great resources, make sure to follow the Stroke It Guide on Facebook and Instagram. Have a great day stroking it.